Welcome back to the Out of the Rough podcast presented by We Know Fantasy. As always, my name is Nate with We Know Fantasy, and joining me as always is my co-host Jake. Jake, how are we today?
We're recovering from Sunday. Before we got on this call, we're, reminiscing our feelings from Sunday. You had a close call on the DP World Tour. I had a close call on the PGA Tour, but, I'm finally feeling better. I sat down, ran my models and stuff, and I'm feeling good about this week. We're going to get one on the DP World Tour and slash or on the DP World Tour. I'm feeling good this week, Nate.
Yeah, like you said there, it was your Akshay Batita bet on uh on the PGA at the Rocket Mortgage. That final putt, man, it was pretty much a gimme as well as Akshay's been putting since the switch the long putter to start the season, and then bogeys that, takes himself out of it. Cam Davis goes on to win that event, and then I had Tom McKibben on the DP World Tour, and almost a gift. Like we were just talking about this. It was the most DP World Tour finish outside of maybe early the season with Sebastian Schottenberg threw away an 8-stroke lead. But right here we had Antoine Rosner and Marcel Siem, who were up by like 3 strokes with 9 holes to play on Tom McKibben, and we're like, hey, one of these guys is going to go on and win, right? Then all of a sudden they both go +1 on the back nine together. It's not like one of them did it. It was insane, and I was outside because I just gave up on the DP World Tour. I know Tom McKibben had a good day, finished his final round. Heck, his caddy went to catch a train. His dad left to go watch the Tour de France. Like everyone that was there with him left the golf course. The caddy had actually come back when the playoff was announced from the train station, and anyways, I went outside to do some work, and I looked at our Discord, and someone was like, "Hey, our guy Tom McKibben has a chance." I'm like, "There's not a chance in the world." I look at my phone, and he's leading by one, and Marcel Siem has to hit a 22-footer after not being able to buy a single shot down the back nine, and then of course he buries it and goes on to place it within a fantastic approach shot on the 18th hole in the playoff, and McKibben barely misses his putt, and Siem hits it, and it was a wild turn of events. Yours was an actual legitimate close call. Mine was almost just a gift handed to me, if that were to be the same thing. But that's DP World Tour betting for you right there in a nutshell. You have two guys up 3 strokes and 9 holes to go, and both of them finished below the guy in the clubhouse, 3 hours behind them. Absolutely insanity. And that's what makes, golf betting so difficult is weeks like last week. And I just feel like this season I've had too many weeks like last week than the good weeks to really hang my hat on this season. But I do feel pretty confident about Rocket Mortgage. I like what my model gave me this week. I guess we'll just see what comes of it. But before we do move into our what did I say, Rocket Mortgage John Deere Classic, excuse me.
Yep.
Before we do move to the John Deere Classic content, Jake, what are you finding on social media?
Yep, you can find me at the Jake Freeman on Twitter. I just posted my article for the week, which you can find on We Know Fantasy. I've also been posting some interesting content that's come across my feed, so be sure to give me a follow there. Also, be sure to join our Discord, completely free to join. Link is in my article and also in the description of the podcast, so be sure to join that. Completely free to join again. 200 plus members, a lot of good information floating in about both DP World Tour and PGA Tour course for DFS and outright betting. So do that if you so please.
Yeah, guys, just hop in there. It's free to join. A lot of great content. If I do like first round leaders, Corn Ferry Tour once in a while, or like the Live, I post my cards exclusively on there. It's a little incentive to hop on there, and I post my picks early before before my articles even drop for the week in there as well. So an incentive to join there. Free to join. Why not? Right? You can hop in there, turn your notifications off, and just check it when you want to. And it's not like it's bothering you by any means like that. And at this point, I mean, you probably have a Discord channel for something in your life with as big as that app is. So hop in and join us there. You can find myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKF Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Be sure to visit WeKnowFantasy.com for some more fantasy sports content. There's fantasy baseball, basketball, NASCAR, football, golf, everything in between. We have you covered. Of course, my Out of the Rough golf betting articles in there where I really go in depth each and every week of the DP World Tour, PGA Tour, and LPGA majors. We have for the women, the women's open following the men's open. I think it's a week after, so that's coming up. And then of course they have their, I think that'll be their final one of the season. There's 5 in the women's game. I'm blanking if I've done 3 or 4 so far this season. Either way, that's coming up. So make sure you're checking out all of the content on there. Of course, We Know Fantasy Podcast Network, the We Know Fantasy NASCAR podcast, Cody and Devin. Do the same thing we do here, break down the track. See how I said track and not course this week.
Nailed it.
Break down the track, track form, history, their betting card, and they do a great job along the way. So be sure to check them out as well. All right, another I don't know. John Deere Classic's a little bit better of a course and event than what the Rocket Mortgage Classic was, and even then, the Rocket Mortgage Classic was supposed to be a birdie fest, and that's what we hang our head on. And then the final Sunday was just a snooze fest, boring, no one making movement. The leaderboard barely changed. It was a pretty blah event outside of, expecting guys to go super low. At least there's some excitement there, and birdie, birdie, Eagles here, but that didn't happen for us. So we'll see what John Deere Classic can storm up for us this week. Of course, this is the final stop for most on the PGA Tour. I shouldn't say most, but for many on the PGA Tour stateside before they head overseas. Most are overseas already or headed overseas for the Genesis Scottish Open next week. And of course, the Open Championship final major of the season 2 weeks away. Before, there's some alternate field events for both next week and the Open week. So we'll break those down next week. But yeah, final stop here stateside for the majority of the PGA Tour. TPC Deere run out here in Silvis, Illinois. It's a unique event and a unique course. Um, yeah, this is another birdie fest, but it's a different birdie fest. It's like a
Yeah.
shorter, compact, like around the green putting birdie fest, opposed to a bomb and gouge. We can hit the ball the furthest and get the ball in the hole the quickest. So there's a little uniqueness to it. And therefore, some of our models will be a bit different than typical birdie fest, where we're just looking for guys who can pour it in fast. You're going to need a good cut around the green game, good irons, and a good putter this week to compete here at TPC Deer Run. But of course, the field this week, we've lost a lot of the headliners. Cam Davis, of course, won last week. He withdrew. Patrick Cantlay was kind of the golden child of the John Deere Classic. I remember a few months ago they posted on their Twitter, Patrick Cantlay committed. He's going to be here as their headlining guy, and of course he withdrew. So we're headlined this week by Jordan Spieth now. And yeah, like I said, most of the PGA Tours already headed overseas, are planning to. So there's only 6 golfers within the top 40 of the OWGR this week. That's Spieth, Sepp Straka, Jason Day, Sungjae Im, Denny McCarthy, and Lucas Glover. Of course, Sepp Straka, defending champion, shot that impressive, 62 -9 on Sunday to win by 2 strokes as season goes, seamlessly, coming out of nowhere to do so. Second PGA Tour victory for Straka that week. Other former champions of this event in this week's field include JT Poston, 2022, Lucas Glover, 2021, Dylan Fratelli, 2019, Michael Kim, 2018, Ryan Moore, 2016, of course, Jordan Spieth, 13 and 15, and Zach Johnson, 2012. Onto the course facts here. DPC Deer Run, has been a host this event since 2000, designed by D.A. Wybring, comes in at 7,258 yards, par 71. Again, we're going to probably likely see a winning score over -20 or under -20, I guess would be the proper term there. It has been that in 11 of the last 14 installments of this event. Michael Kim has the record here, -27, won by 8 strokes in 2018 in doing so. So it goes without saying, this is not really a challenging course or track, but it does the birdie. I said this before. It does the birdie fest in a different way than most birdie fests, so it kind of gives us a little bit difference there. Undulations on the fairway, steep elevation changes, and tight dog legs do force some layups off the tee. Like I said, golfers are required to pretty much use every golf club in their bag this week. There'll be a premium on ball striking, short game, more so than your typical birdie fest. Rewards typically the best ball strikers on tour. We've seen some, long guys like Bryson DeChambeau win here before, so it's not like it's the end all. Of course, every course there's exceptions to the rules. Fairways and greens are both above average in size in terms of tour average. Accurate ball strikers who find the fairways, and then greens regulation was a success here. Fairways do play wider than the PGA Tour average, but there are still plenty of tight tree lines and thicker rough that will force some layups. Multiple long par threes and par fours that measure beyond 450 yards this week. And yeah, pretty much the difference here will be the greens. They're a slower green than what they're used to on the PGA Tour. I don't have the stint meter number in front of me, but they are pretty much, this course is known for the slow green. So trying to figure out these greens. They are bent grass, but on the slower side. So the golfers who can find some success on these slower greens will be the ones to take down this course. Yeah, beyond that, some bad weather this weekend, of course, coming up, as is every week on the PGA Tour. Wet conditions possibly. So yeah, we'll see what happens with that. Maybe the greens are even slower than what they're advertised. But Jake, anything else about this course, field, and/or event before we move forward?
No, I just think one thing to note, when I ran my model, I put a little bit of extra emphasis on fairways gained pretty much. So just putting the ball in the fairway. Driving accuracy is going to be pretty important this week compared to last week, which you mentioned in your breakdown. But just worthy to note that a lot of previous winners find themselves in the fairways more times than not on this course.
I mean, it goes to show you have JT Posted as a winner here, Lucas Glover, guys that aren't necessarily long off the tee, but find themselves in the middle of the fairway quite often. With that being said, Jake, let's move into our DFS breakdown suggestions for this week. This week, only 5 monetary categories according to DraftKings pricing: $10,000 plus, 9,000 is the eights, the sevens, the 6,900 and below, no 5,900 and below category this week. So 10K price range. We're down to 4 guys to pick from this week. Some pretty good names though in this. There's a lot to like here. Jake, who are you kicking things off with though?
Yeah, I'm going with the lowest owned of these four, and I think by a pretty considerable margin it's going to be Jordan Spieth at 10,500. Really awful season for Jordan, and there's not much to hang your hat on. So it is a little bit of a boomer bust play, but we know that Jordan Spieth has the talent and he is a boomer bust player. So that's kind of why I've gone this direction. On the season, something that we can note has been really good is his off the tee. I believe he's 16th in strokes gained off the tee, both long and accurate. So that is something good. But what we think when we think of Jordan Spieth, we think of incredible short game, and that has completely gone away from him this year. The putter and even the around the green game is slipping. It's kind of ugly. But as we mentioned before in your breakdown, two-time winner here. He had a T7 sandwiched in between those two wins. We haven't seen him here in a long time, but at a lower ownership with the boomer bust potential of Jordan Spieth and just having probably the best talent long term in this field, I'm going to take my chances on him this week.
Yeah, I've been in that same situation several times this season as Jordan Spieth has played a lot of these lesser field events to and desperationally trying to find some form, and that's what he's doing here before he heads overseas. It's just grasping at straws to try to find some form, and it hasn't worked out thus far. I've played him a few times in Texas with the same mindset that he's an elite talent. He's going to figure things out sooner or later. Hopefully, it's this week. And you mentioned that the ownership numbers are going to be phenomenal with him, with the names around him. But yeah, a good play. I mean, DFS. We're talking DFS here. On an outright market,
Yeah.
I'd be really reluctant. Of course, his
Yeah.
number would be super low to begin with, as the odds-on favorite most likely. But yeah, I mean, you're sandwiched between I mean, 2 guys I wrote up here, and Aaron Rye at 10K, then Sepp Straka at 10.4. Of course, Straka defending champion, right? He did that for a reason. But Aaron Rye, it, this seems like this could be his event, right? This is pretty
Yep.
much a tailor-made course to Aaron Rye. He hung with him last week at a course that didn't fit him completely well, right? What does Aaron Rye do better than everyone else? That's find the middle of the fairway. I think he's first on tour and hit fairway percentage. Of course, elite iron play, and it all just boils down to the around the green work and the putting, the short game, right? Putting hasn't been half bad. I think he gained like 2.1 or 1.2 strokes per round last week with the putter. Not too bad. The short game will be, of course, something you have to monitor and kind of plug your nose, as you say, Jake, and move on with it because it's going to be bad no matter the way you look at it. But we're talking about a guy who is going to be in the center of the fairway every single time and put the ball rather close. I took consideration 75 to 150 on approach and 150 to 175 with these larger greens. But yeah, I mean, there isn't really a knock to his game. I mean, he's playing some insane form. T2 last week, Rocket Mortgage Classic, T19th at the US Open, T14th Rocket, or excuse me, um, T4 CJ Cup Byron Nelson. I think it was T14th Memorial, Wells Fargo, somewhere around there. I have it mixed up here in my article I'm looking at. But man, he made the cut in 7 consecutive events, included in those is 5 top 25s, 3 top 15s, and 2 top 5s there. Um, again, I don't think he's got real win equity yet. The putter's still rather bad. The around the green is too poor, and he doesn't get the birdies when he needs them. As we saw last week, that it was on a silver platter essentially for anyone within 4 strokes to take down the event, and no one took it by the horns and ran away with it. So, but again, when it comes to DFS, ownership's going to be rather high. Of course, 10K was a in itself is going to be a fantastic price for him to start your lineups. But man, with the likes of Patrick Cantlay, Cam Davis, those guys taking a step back, your options are so few and far between up here. But I mean, I have to go with Aaron Rye. Form and the way this course just fits him, it just seems like this is a week for him to. Again, I don't believe he can win it, but I think he's gonna be in contention on Sunday.
Yeah, I actually do think he can win it. I mean, this is a really weak field event. And if he is going to win one, I think that this is his best chance. And he's playing some of his best golf, trending in the right direction. with an awesome week last week. I know that Sunday was a bit of a letdown for him, but the putter looks solid, especially over the last 2 weeks. It's been really good, which we are not accustomed to seeing with Rye. So I like the call out. I'm a little concerned about the ownership percentage, even though I'm fairly positive he's going to come in less than Sepp Straka. And it's between him and Sungjae for who's going to take that second ownership spot. But if he comes in that third ownership spot, I don't mind playing him in my DFS lineups at all.
Yeah, the Travelers of Sanjay kind of poking his head around there and flash the leaderboards is really going to gravitate people there. And people have kind of been desperate for Sanjay to become relevant again, right? It's been some time. He
Yeah.
was a fan favorite for a long time, kind of a model merchant. And of course, he's won some decent events on the PGA Tour. It's not like he's a no name guy like dare I say Kevin Yu, right? Um, but no, he's a relevant guy, and he's going to poke his head around some leaderboards and playing some fantastic golf. Again, this is a course that suits Sanjay him extremely well as well. So, yeah, just have to see where those ownership numbers are and move on from there. But we'll move quickly down the 9K price range, and I'll lead it off here with a guy who probably will have another high ownership number. That's Davis Thompson, 9,600. I am all over him. Sepp Straka, Davis Thompson were my first clicks on the betting card this week. Of course, David Thompson T2 last week at the Rocket Mortgage Classic. Probably had the outside of missing some short putts. Excuse me, he had probably the best round of anyone on the golf course, right? He kind of came from a distance back and put himself in
Yeah.
contention to win that, maybe outside of Cam Davis. But great form as well. T2 last week, T9 at the US Open, T27 Memorial, T17 Charles Schwab, and T2 Myrtle Beach in some of his last outings. I know we're dating back here to May with a Myrtle Beach, but not too bad. T31 here a season ago. A little bit of course history, not too much to go on here, but man, he is very good around the green. He's 13th on tour, strokes game around the green, 14th in par fives, 24th birdie or better, 25th in approach, green regulations, and proximity 150 175. Again, it comes down pretty much the putter for him. He isn't historically the best putter. Again, super young, only 25 years of age, but he does struggle a bit in the greens. But again, last week 0.538 strokes per round putting, and then the week prior, or excuse me, at the U.S. Open where he finished what T13 or what was it
T9.
T9, he gained 0.565 strokes putting at the U.S. Open, and toughest challenge in golf. So some promise there for the young guy to get some to get going. And I think he has real win equity. This is an up and coming guy that on the tour. Great around the green play, great approach, getting the hot putt at the right time. I think it's time for things to start falling in his favor. And again, he missed a putt last week. I think it was 18 or 17 that could have put him into a playoff as well. So yeah, a victory here on a field like this, I think is a real possibility for someone like Davis Thompson.
Yeah, I'm with you on him in the outright market too. I didn't get him as early as some other guys, but still playing him in the outright market, trending in the right direction. This is a great breakthrough spot, big opportunity in a weak field for him to play well. He could spike around the green, he could spike with the irons, he could spike off the tee. So love all of that stuff that I'm seeing. The putter, you just went over, pretty consistent over the last 2 weeks. If he can get that putter just a little bit hotter, I think that he could take it down easily this week. So I love that call out, but I'm going back to the well here for a guy who burned me last week. One of my favorite plays last week that I mentioned. I can't get off the button here. It's Maverick McNeely at 9,800. If I liked him last week because of his numbers, how do I not like him this week? I mean, he made the cut. He finished T44, really disappointing, especially for my outright and DFS lineups. Made the cut, got some weekend points, but didn't nearly meet the expectations I was looking for. But that being said, I'm willing to throw out, a T44, which isn't even that terrible of a finish. The 3 weeks before that, a T7 at the Canadian Open, a T17 at the Chuck Schwab, and a T23 at the PGA Championship. So a major there. His John Deere course history here, actually pretty solid. T44 in 2017, a T18 in 2021, and then a T8 in 2022. So if he can continue to build off of that course history and get some of that current form together, why not him this week? On the season, I'll reiterate these numbers from last week, but 19th in strokes gained off the tee, 109 in approach, which is pretty bad, but 12th around the green, 28th in putting. So again, having a phenomenal season. If he can get those irons clicking at all, I could see McNeely taking it down and burning some people who are a little afraid to go back to him this week, but I'm not one of them. I'm going to stick to him.
Yeah, like you said, I mean, there's a few guys I'll talk about later in this podcast, and even I wrote up Keith Mitchell. Burned me last week, liked him last week for the same reasons I like him this week. I mean, outside of the distance off the tee, it's pretty much a similar setting, a similar course in a way. Birdie Fest, simply, right? But yeah, Maverick Neely's kind of a, I dare you say, an elite talent in this field among those who are here this week. He is a very talented golfer. Hasn't really had his breakthrough moment himself, but this very well could be it. And like you said, it's going to take some things to click, mainly those irons to get hot. But once that does happen, I mean, he can take this down. Elite putter, super long off the tee, super accurate as well. Like you said, 19th in strokes game off the tee. That takes consideration everything. So he hits the ball far and straight, and he can putt with the best of them. So we'll see if that's the difference this week in these slow greens. But yeah, let's move forward here to the 8K price range. Things get a little more interesting here. Some common names as well down here in the 8K though price range. Jake, who we leading off with?
Yeah, I'm a little worried about this guy's ownership, but I feel like we need to talk about him. Sticking with the model for me of throw out last week and enjoy the current form he's in, it's going to be Adam Svensson at 8,200. I think that's a really low price for the talent of golfer you're getting. Just playing some solid golf. I took him at the Travelers at some long odds. He finished with a T16, which I thought was solid. Paid me off in DFS pretty well. But what I love about Svensson the most, his course history here is phenomenal. A T18 in 2019, T24 in 2022, and a T21 in 2023. So on the season, 83rd in strokes gained off the tee, pretty average. 39th in approach, which is great. 82nd around the green, which is about average, and then 162nd in putting. So the putter is what he dies on every single week. It's kind of tough, but on a course where you need to find the fairway and hit some good approach shots, I know that Svensson's going to give me two of the three things that's going to win the tournament this week. And even his around the green game is solid. If he can get the putter to not be horrendous, I like his chances to win, but I also really like his chances to make the cut and have a really good finish in DFS.
Yeah, 162. You're just one pace off being the tour's worst putter, right? I think it's 171 guys in the list right now. So not too good there, but again, DFS play different than the outright market. We're not talking about Adam Svensson to win this event. Talking about to get across a cut line and get you into the weekend with a 6 for 6 lineup, and he has a chance to do that. He's an above average golfer on the PGA Tour standard. He does some things extremely well, and that can carry you across that cut line this week. Again, kind of one of the popular guys each and every week because he offers some great value down here in the sevens
Yep.
and the eights typically. But again, we'll just see how that shakes up. But I mean, at some point, the ownership is something to consider. But again, you still have to line out your best lineup. In doing so, if Adam Svensson does fall in that category for you, go right for it. A guy with some will definitely have some high ownership. I'll talk about real quick is Lucas Glover, right here in this price range, and that's mainly because of his course history here. 8,700 here for Glover, but let's date back to 2017. He's played this event 5 times. In those 5 events, he's missed one cut, but placed T6 a season ago, went T10 2019, T25 in 2017. Let's not forget he won this event in 2021. So
Yep.
a ton of course history here. He also went T15 in 2013. Knows his way around this golf course, plays here extremely well, and again, goes to show what type of golfer can succeed here. It's a and he won here and had some great performances when his putter was the worst on the PGA Tour. He saw that super spike last season that really put him into contention and won back-to-back events. I don't know if they're back-to-back; they were close there to it. Um, but again, if you can just figure out these slow greens, it may not be someone who is an elite putter on the PGA Tour. Just be someone who gets the feel for them quickly and can go with that for the rest of the week. And we've seen that year and year again. But again, Lucas Glover hits the ball straight with the best of them. Has some decent form, not in the best of form, I guess you'd say. T44 last out of the Travelers, T12 Charles Schwab, T16 Wells Fargo, blah blah blah. But man, he's fourth on tour in proximate hole from 75 to 150, sixth in hit fairway percentage, 10th in proximate hole from 150 to 175, 13th in approach, 20th in par four. What he's lacking, of course, is the putter and his par five scoring. Again, there's only what 2 or 3 this week would be the par 71, 3 of them. So it's not the end all, but again, Birdie Fest, you really have to capitalize on the par fives. You can't really be leaving, pars or bogeys on those holes and hope to win. But again, I think the course history proves that he can succeed here, can have a strong finish. We'll see what his ownership number ends up, likely rather high. But again, just kind of a safe play here in the mid tiers where you're just trying to say you went with a Jordan Spieth up at the 10K price range. You took maybe a swing at Keith Mitchell in the 9Ks, and you're trying to find some guy right in the middle that you can kind of hang your hat on. Who cares if his ownership's maybe a little bit higher if you saved a few ownership points going up, well, trying to be a difference maker with Jordan Spieth along the way.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to come up with the words here, Nate, but I'm avoiding Lucas Glover at all costs this week, actually. I'm too scared of the short game. Like you said, it's a bit, he's been bad with the short game in the past, right? And he has had success here, but it's just a little bit too alarming for me, especially with the approach play numbers that I'm seeing. Last week, he gained a stroke per round on approach, which is, typical Lucas Glover. That's what you need for him to win is the accuracy off the tee and the approach. But the three starts before that, the irons weren't even clicking for him. So I'm not sure what to make of it, but I'm a little scared of Glover this week. So I'm going to steer clear.
To each their own. That's why we're both here giving our opinions, but we'll see which one of us is correct about that next week. But again, Kevin
Yep.
Yu is also this price range at 8,800 this week, which
Tempting.
I don't advise to play. I wrote him up actually, so I can't say that I didn't. I mean, he actually modeled rather well from this week. But
Yeah.
still, it's crazy that in this field, Kevin Yu is 8,800. I think he's like 60 to 1 or 50 to 1 on the outright market. It's kind of insane what this field's given us this week. But there's that. Let's roll here to the 7K price range. I'll kick it off here. I'm going to go with a name I haven't said in quite some time. That's Daniel Berger at 7,400. Model gave him to me this week. I was kind of intrigued a bit, did some digging. And, sometimes my model gives me a number or a name. I look into it. I'm like, I'm just going to move on. I don't care what this number says. Daniel's, recent form and things aren't anything that jumps off the page at you. I mean, he missed the cut in his last week at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, but he plays T21 at the U.S. Open. Super promising there. T13 stick up Byron Nelson. Decent course form here, though. Hasn't played in some time since 2021, but he did place T34 in 21, T33 in 2019, and T5 in 2017. Berger's kind of been out of it for a while, but back this season. Decent stats we get for him as well. 11th in ball striking. He's 14th green regulation, 16th in hit fairway, 20th in approach, 20th approximate hole from 75 to 150, and 29th off the tee. Round the green, and the really isn't that good, excuse me. And the thing that kind of concerns me a little bit about Daniel Berger is his birdie or better percentage is 149th. So he's really not, in an event like this where you definitely need to go low. I don't know if he has that power, but I think he has the game to make the cut here. I think he'll be one to garner a low ownership at 7,400. There's a lot of names in the 7K price range, as there are every week, that you can lean towards with some disparity down here. I know he's a more popular guy, kind of a fan favorite a bit for a while there. But again, been off for a while. Hasn't really been a name I've seen a lot of circulating. So I do like what he brings to this table this week. A decent course history, and if you throw out last week, some okay form, especially with the top 20 of the U.S. Open.
Yeah, no, I like this call out a lot, actually. Depending on the ownership come in, I mean, again, it's the putter with him, but what I like that I saw this season is that the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, he got the putter to like pretty much dead even, and he finished T13 at -17. So if he gets that putter to just even, he can get to a respectable number from a DFS standpoint. So I like the call out on Berger this week.
There we go. Let's hope things start clicking for him.
Yeah, I mean, a fan favorite. So if he gets it clicking, I'll be rooting for him this week. But my play here, one of my favorites this week. I know that one of our members in our Discord, Sauce, also pointed him out this morning. Lee Hodges, $7,500. Really, really like this play. Probably my favorite of the week, dare I say. But if we throw out last week's miscut at the Rocket Mortgage, his form before that, very solid. He made 5 cuts in a row, a T24 at the Wells Fargo, T12 at the PGA Championship, which is a major, a T12 at the Charles Schwab, and then like 2 mid performances at the Memorial and the Travelers, which are elevated events. But what I saw over that stretch of time is he does the 3 things I'm looking for this week really well. He hits fairways, he can spike with the irons a lot, and he has a very solid putter. So I like his game. I like where it's trending. If he made the cut last week and had like a T25 finish, I would have expected him in probably like the mid 8K, low 8K range. Instead, you're getting him in the mid to low 7K range. I think that this is a real big discount. Not positive about the ownership. He has a T43 here in 2022. So not much history or course history to go off of, but taking out that miscut at the Rocket Mortgage, he's in some great form, and I really like him this week.
You talked about what he does well, and he really fits his course. And he's a guy that can really just have everything clicking and all at once, right? Oftentimes, it's a guy gets his irons going that he normally doesn't. Then, like the strong putter he typically has, kind of goes the wayside. Lee Hodges has the ability to go low, and he can do it with the best of them. So I love that call out right there. A very fair price, more than fair, right? It's a very fantastic right. Price, excuse me, for someone like Lee Hodges in this field. So fantastic play there, Jake. We'll see what he can do this week. And again, Sauce pointed out as well some more stuff, some more content you can find earlier before the podcast was released. Excuse me, on the Discord if you were to hop in
Yep.
there. So find your way over there as well. But one more price range this week, the 1600 and below, Jake. Some slim pickings down here, I guess. But there's
Yeah.
some few names I like. Who do you like?
Yeah, I'm going with a little bit of a popular 6K guy, which generally bodes really poorly. So take this with a grain of salt. I'm going towards the bottom here. Harry Higgs at 6,400, grinding his ass off on the Corn Ferry this
Yep.
year, and he's gained his PGA Tour card back after 2 victories in a row. He's playing some of the best golf of his career, I would argue, even though it's been on the Corn Ferry. In his last 6 starts, he's a very big boomer bust guy. He has 2 wins, a top five also with that, a T26, and then 2 missed cuts. So he has PGA Tour experience, which I like a lot, especially this week. You get some of these Corn Ferry guys who come to the PGA Tour once in a blue moon, and they kind of don't adjust well. But Higgs has played on the PGA Tour. He knows what it takes. And playing some awesome golf. Of course, we don't really have the strokes gain data for the PGA Tour on him, but to win 2 tournaments and to come T5 and one in another one, he's playing some great golf. He's going to garner a decent bit of ownership there, but I'm willing to take my chances here. And yeah, why not just take a shot at 6,400? He's a salary saver for sure.
What I like about these guys that get their, well, he's on the PGA Tour now, but coming back up, especially someone like Harry Higgs, who was on the PGA Tour, went back down and had to fight his way back up there. He's got something to prove, right? He's
Yep.
trying to prove that he can stay around the PGA Tour and not have to go. He's 32 years old. It's not like he's a young buck who got an early chance at the PGA, faltered it, and went back down. He's been grinding for a long time. So hungrier than ever, like he said, even if it was on the Corn Ferry Tour, 2 victories on any form of PGA Tour standardized event, professional event period is a win in its own book. But yeah, to do so back to back weeks as well. And the Corn Ferry Tour is again so volatile and so, as you use the word grinding, right? It's
Yeah.
not easy to do what they do in the Corn Ferry Tour to get yourself back to the PGA. So a big ups to him to do that there, and again, a good salary saver as well.
Yeah,
Both of
sorry.
my
One more thing, Nate. So the thing that I like the best about the Corn Ferry Tour is, like you said, it's very competitive and it's oftentimes a birdie fest week in,
Mhm.
week out. The 2 tournaments he won them both at 19 under. So Hicks can pour in birdies and he has been in some competition recently. So that's just added fuel to the fire for me for my pick there.
There we go. Both my guys were actually the guys that played the 5,900 below price range last week, and that was Pat Kazire and Carson Young. I do love what Pat Kazire does again this week here at this golf course. I mean, I was all over him last week, so why not go back to him this week? But I think my favorite of the two would be Carson Young, 6,700. So you're saving a few dollars there, and he's not as popular as Pat Kazire is this week. I've seen his name float around a little bit. But missed the cut last week at the Rocket Mortgage. This is Carson Young, excuse me. Prior to that, T14th at the RPC Canadian Open. Also T32 Myrtle Beach, T30 CJ Cup Byron Nelson. Not the best, but man, he hits the fairways. 11th on tour and hit fairway percentage. He's 42nd on ball striking, 45th off the tee, 52nd par fives, 55th par fours, 57th proximity 75 to 150. He means 64th grade regulation, 67th putting, 81st approach, 70th birdie or better. It's the around the green game that really gets Carson Young. It's a problem. 140th there and strokes game around the green. But what I do like, he finds the fairways. Again, same thing we've talked about everyone here. Has an above average approach game and an above average putter. 6,700 looking for him to get across the cut line. That's it. Missed a cut last week, but I think this is a course that fits him more than it does Pat Desire of the two this week. So that's why, that's why I'm leaning Carson Young this week.
Yeah, I like that call out a lot. I mean, he could spike with the irons. At the beginning of this year, he was rather consistent gaining towards his more recent form, it hasn't been like that, but he has that in that bag. So he's going to be in the fairway if he could spike with those irons and keep that putter going. We're not asking him to win unless you have an outright, but we're asking him to get across the cut line to have a decent finish. And I think Carson Young is more than capable in doing that, especially at a birdie fest where earlier in the year at the Mexico Open, a known birdie fest, he finished T8. At the American Express, another birdie fest, he finished T17. So Birdie Fest kind of call Carson Young's name, so I like that call out a lot.
And he has a really cool mustache, so I like that
Yes.
about him as well. All right, Jake, anything else about the John Deere Classic DFS before we move to the betting cards section here?
I guess just one cool thing to mention, two amateurs that have been just playing awesome golf, Luke Clayton
Oh,
or
yeah.
Clanton, sorry, and Neil Shipley. Neil Shipley, Ohio State alum, that's where I went to. Both of them just playing some awesome golf. I know that their names are getting a little bit more popular, especially DFS and outright this week, so be a little weary. But if you just are a lover of the game of golf, watch these two young guys go at it. It's awesome. They're playing great golf and actually competing really well on the PGA Tour.
Yeah, Clayton had a real chance last week, right? He
Yeah.
was top 10 and down the stretch with no one taking the tournament by storm. He really had a real chance himself. And, cool interview with his parents along the way there on Sunday. But yeah, like you said, I love to see. I mean, we saw earlier this season an amateur win. It's just a super cool story, and some of the stuff that we talk about years from now. Back when John Daly did it, as all of that stuff. Like it's just those things that don't happen often. So when we get to see them, it's just part of golf history. Um, but yeah, I think he just wanted to do that to shout out Neil Shipley and Ohio State
Yep.
right quick. But there you go, proud alumni for sure. But betting card this week, Jake. Of course, three categories. We have our overall favorite play. If we could only place one bet this week, who would it be and why? We have our personal favorite, maybe someone we're on the committee's out on, maybe just a personal favorite value or a personal favorite golf. Of course, long shot, self-explanatory. Longest odds we're on this week. So, Jake, you got one bet to make this week. Who is it and why?
Yeah, I'm going with Matt McNeely. I was on him last week. I think some people are hopping off, so that generally bodes well. When someone gets burned and people hop off, they usually perform well the next week. So numbers check out on the season. Solid course history here as well. He's my pick to win this week.
Yeah, of course, you have to pick your guy and go with it. Uh, I'm gonna go with Davis Thompson. I have Sepp Straka at 21 and Davis Thompson on my card, 30-1. But I think Davis Thompson has that real win equity. It's hard to do events back to back as Sepp Straka is looking to do, of course, though. Probably the market favorite would be Sepp Straka. But I think Davis Thompson, T2 last week, played some great golf, gets that putter going a little bit, more than what he's been doing, or even staying where he's at. I think he's a real chance to get down this week at 30-1, a good number in doing so. But our personal favorite golfer or personal favorite bet this week, Jake, I don't know. I have JT posted here 35-1, but I really like Rio Histune at 70-1 this week. Again, Japanese golf is it's just a great spot. There's so many good Japanese golfers right now. Of course, Hideki Matsuyama just kind of was I want to say the first, but he was the biggest name to do it, right? Masters champion,
Yep.
winning this earlier this year at the Genesis, and just doing so in dominating fashion. Rio Histune was a guy who won the PGA Tour last season, came over with the DP World Tour, shake up there with the PGA Tour. We've seen two Japanese golfers win already on the PGA Tour or the DP World Tour. Kari Nakajima and the other one's were blanking me, but his Tooney's made the cut in four of his last six events, placed T13th at the CJ Cup Byron Nelson, again, known Birdie Fest, T18th at the PGA Championship for Rio Tuna there. Love to see that. Major, of course. T35, RPC Canadian Open, T31st, Rocket Mortgage Classic. Some great results there. Currently eighth on tour in par fours, 12th in green regulation. So he's giving himself those birdie looks on the greens. 31st around the green, really good there. 42nd birdie or better can get Poorman with best of them. 47th ball striking, 60th on approach. I mean, is there anything to really talk down about? Maybe not the best of putters. I haven't looked at his exact numbers. 118th there, instructing putting bent grass, and 128th on the par fives, of course, three this week. But just love the value. Try to find someone, kind of less than 30 to 40 this week's kind of hard when it comes to a field of this nature. So I think 70-1 is a nice sweet spot for someone like Rio History.
You there? Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry, I cut out. So yeah, I like the Hisune call a lot. I think he's a really well-rounded golfer, but My favorite play, I already talked about Lee Hodges, so I'm going to go a little bit of a different direction here. I'm going to go with Joel Damon. I got him at 100 to 1. He's one of the streakiest golfers. Like he's known to
God,
put together like three incredible starts in a row and then miss 10 cuts in a row and like blow up. So seeing a T10 at the RBC Canadian Open and a T25 at the Rocket Mortgage Classic, I think I'm catching him on an upswing at 100 to 1. He's generally in the fairway. He's an accurate driver of the golf ball. He could spike with those irons like pretty significantly, like close to 2 strokes per round if he really gets them going. The putter is where he loses his strokes, but what I like that I've seen in 2 of his last 4 starts, he's gained over a stroke per round with the putter. So it looks like he could pop with that also in a birdie fest. He's a big boomer bust guy. So in the outright market, if you're not coming in first for me, you're losing me money. So I don't care. He has a T2 here in 2018 and 3 missed cuts alongside that. So if he can give me a sweat at 100 to 1, I like that play a lot.
I love the call out there. Of course, anytime you get Joel Diamond on the outright card and you have a little incentive to cheer for the guy in the bucket hat, it's always a good time. Of course, full swings really made us fall in love with the guy, right? And everything he does there. But yeah, hoping he can cash an outright or win on the PGA Tour so he can pay that caddy of his a little bit more because man, he's a great guy as
Yeah.
well. From what full swing has shown us. But yeah, my furthest, my out, excuse me, long shot is Carson Young this week, 150 to 1. Big number for someone we talked about already. He does what we want this week rather well. So we'll see what Carson Young can do for us this week at a big number. So anything to add here, Jake, before we move forward to the next event on the schedule?
I actually have one more long shot that I forgot to mention here. Matt Kuchar, 180 to 1 is the longest on my card. It's a little scary because can you picture Matt Kuchar winning a PGA Tour event? Maybe not, but at 180 to 1 in a weak field, a guy who has a ton of experience, I'd like to argue that this is actually a great outright, in my opinion. He's in the fairway a lot. His approach play generally isn't great, but he's gained in his last 3 starts there, and he's generally a great putter and has a really, really competent short game. So he has the tools to be successful here. And at 180 to 1, no Scotty Scheffler in the field. And especially after seeing what happened on the DP World Tour last week
Oh
and
my
on
God.
the PGA Tour of a bunch of guys just not wanting to take the tournament, I'm taking my shot here at 181 to go with Kuchar.
Yeah, I mean, we probably could have said the same thing about Lucas Glover last year, and he won
Yeah,
twice. Like, who would have thought that, and 40-some-year-old Lucas Glover, I mean, Matt Kuchar a little bit older than that, right? Would have won twice on the or on the PGA Tour, and he did that. So it can happen. And
yeah.
180 to 1 is a big number for someone, especially as talented as Matt Kuchar is, and who's been around for a while, played all these golf courses several times, has a lot of victories along the way. Do love that as well. But let's move here to the DP World Tour side of things. We have the BMW International Open over in Munich, Germany, finishing up the European swing. After this week, they're off for a few weeks. Well, I guess it's a co-sanction next week, right? With the I don't know if it actually is anymore. If it's just the Scottish Open's a PGA Tour event itself. It gets kind of weird at this point because I think they're co-sanctioned. Both the events next week are
Yeah.
co-sanctioned between the PGA Tour and the DP World Tour. There's a new name for the event next week, I'm pretty sure, so I don't know that one off the top of my head. Um, but yeah, half the field, of course, will be the Genesis, and the other half will head over here to the states to play the next 2 weeks on the state side for the DP World Tour. But yeah, been roughly a month since the last time we saw the DP World Tour in Germany. The last time we were here was the Porsche European Open in early June. Laurie Cantor took that one down. This event once served as the only DP World Tour stop in Germany up until 2015 when the European Open came over. It used to alternate between the golf club Laurenhof and the golf club Mukin Eichenrad. Definitely did not say that correctly. Between 2011 and the pandemic in 2020, but has since been found its home at the golf club at Munich or Munchen Eichenrad for the 4th consecutive year. Again, with the Open Championship just 2 weeks away, I don't know where everyone stands. There may be some chances on the DP World Tour. Yeah, I'm sure if someone who's not yet qualified wins this week, they'll get themselves in the field. So there is a little added incentive there. But again, the field this week's headlined by former Masters champion Patrick Reed, taking on the head of the betting cards, and he's going to be joined by former DP World Tour standout and PGA Tour regular Ryan Fox, who returns 4-time winner of the DP World Tour, most recently the BMW PGA Championship this past fall. Of course, we have many of the regular DP World Tour guys here: the Bernd Weisbergers, Jordan Smiths, Kaita Nakimas, Thomas Peters, Tristan Lawrence, Matty Schmid, Guido Migluzzi. I know there's a few live guys I mixed in there, but again, we've seen them a few times recently on the DP World Tour. Of course, a slew of German golfers looking to become just the second golfer to win this event on home soil. Of course, Martin Kamer being the first and only one to do this in 2008. List of German golfers this week we have, of course, Matty Schmid, Yannick Paul, Kamer, Jeremy Paul, last week's winner, Marshall Seam. I'll just name a few. Tristan Lawrence, defending champion. Heartbreak for me. Last year, I had a nice long shot of Josh DeLuton down the stretch. I think it was 75, 80 to 1, somewhere in that range. And he was 3 or 4 stroke lead going to the back nine. Typical DP World Tour fashion. He blows the lead to Tristan Lawrence. He needs a birdie on the final hole to win, par to playoff or something like that. And finds himself missing the green as he's trying to force the ball after missing the fairway, and almost chipped in, like within an inch of going in the hole to chip in to win or send to a playoff, whatever the thing was. That again would have been typical DP World Tour fashion right there, to blow the lead and then chip in to win out of nowhere.
Yep.
But there's a long list of former winners of this event in this week's field. We have Ho Tong Lee, who won in 2022, Andrea Pavon 2019, Pablo Larisball 11 and 15, Fabrizio Zanatti 2014, Danny Willett 12, David Horsey 10, Kamer 08, David Howell 05, Miguel Angel Jimenez 04, and Thomas Bjorn 2000 and 2002. Golf course this week, the golf club Muchen Eichenrad in Munich, Germany, plays as a par 72 at 7,284 yards, designed by Kurt Rosknecht and opened in 1989 as a flat tree-lined course with greens that run quite slowly. There are many streams and ponds that run through this course. With the ponds in play, there are 2 half-island greens and 90 sand bunkers throughout. Water is in play on 10 holes. As the course has matured, so have the trees that were planted as the course was established. A 20 underscore would have been enough to win here in the early years. 2022 was the first time since 2009 that anyone went beyond -19. A birdie fest, but not a crazy birdie fest here. Ho Tong and Peters both carded scores of -22 that year to head into a playoff. Of course, Ho Tong won that event. Slight renovation took place here in 2019. Changes really come into all the greens. A few yards were added to lengthen the course, but that has done not much to alter the scorings. Previous mention, the turn of the trees, of course, was once a bomber's paradise. Now it's more of a tune to reward the straight line hitters off the tee. Yeah, difference maker here will be the slow greens as well. We talked about it on the PGA Tour side of things. Seems the DP World Tour is reflecting back over here as well. And all this course rewards the best tee to green players on tour. Weather, somewhat conditions as well here in Germany this week. Jake, anything else about the course, event, and/or field you want to add before we move forward?
Nope, I think you covered it well.
There we go. All right, betting card this week, Jake. I got 4 guys for you. How many do you have?
So the card isn't finalized. I have 10 names written down, but I have 3 bets in, so I'll talk about all 3 of those.
All right, well, I'll kick it off here, and I'm leading my car with Kaita Nakajima. I talked about Rio Histone, my love for Japanese golfers currently in the world, so I took 25 to 1 here for Nakajima. Of course, a winner not too long ago, the Hero Indian Open, took that one down at a really challenging golf course. Fresh off a T6th in his last out of the European Open as well. Also placed T11th at the high SPS Honda Championship, but man, currently second in tour in par 4 average scoring, 4th in tee to green, 6th in birdie or better, 15th in scrambling, 17th in putting, 18th in bogey avoidance, 19th in green regulations. Driving accuracy isn't the best, but not too bad. So yeah, that's what I like about Kaita this week.
Yeah, he's a really well-rounded golfer in some great form. He's one of the 10 on the list that I have written down to consider. So, yeah, I really like him this week. Young guy on the DP World Tour playing some great golf, so he's fun to root for.
There we go. Who's your first of your 3 official bets?
Yep. So the first bet that I had put in when the odds came out was Callum Hill at 50 to 1. I went to the well last week. He was playing some awesome golf, and then he came up with a miscut. So similar to my PGA Tour style DFS and outright betting card, I'm throwing last week out altogether. Coming into last week, he had a T2 at the Volvo Scandinavian Mixed, a T13 at the European Open, and then a T18 at the Sudal Open. His course history here also awesome. 2021, he had a T17. 2023, he had a T10, a super good putter of the ball. The approach play last week was a bit of a disaster, obviously with a miscut, but before that, right around even. The accuracy is hit or miss, but over his last two starts, he's found himself in the fairway, gaining on the field in that, and he's generally long off the tee. So kind of like where his game is at in his course history. So going to put that together at 50 to 1 and hope that he can put it together this week and pay me off.
Yeah, Callum Hill, a very good putter of the ball. If I remember
Yep.
correctly, he does hit the ball rather good on the greens. But man, another 50 to 1 number, fantastic number for the Scotsman there. So I like that play as well. I'm gonna go back here to the well for last year's winner who broke my heart there. 30 to 1 for Christian Lawrence. That was a great number for the defending champion. Is a guy who is one of, dare I say, one of the premier talents on the DP World Tour at this point. Um, yeah, he's fresh off a T2 his last outing of the European Open. So the recent form there, he's also placed a ton this season. T2 at the Janssen Workwear, T10 SDC Championship, T19th Magical Kenya Open, T2 Alfred Dunhill Championship, T7th at the Joburg Open. So a littering of top 5, top 10 performances this season. He's first on tour when it comes to putting. He is the best on the PG or DP World Tour when it comes to the hot flat stick. Fourth in birdie or better can get those. 16th in par 4, 21st in scrambling. 45th tee to green, 30th in accuracy, 68th green regulations. Not really a hit to his game at all. Again, defending champion for a reason here. Same golf course. I think he's hungry here to get I think it's a third victory. Last year was his second, I believe, for the first time in over a year. So yeah, it's time for Thurston Lawrence to go back to back at a 31 number for me.
Yeah, defending champion. He was in a little bit of a rut when he went over to the PGA Tour for a little bit of a stretch this season, but DP World Tour staple guy. He's home here. He feels good. His game looks like it's turning back in the right direction to where he normally is. So, won here last year. I like the call out there. Not one of the names on my list, but now I have to think about it. So you're putting me in a little bit of a tough position here. But I'm going down the board. I'm going to give you some longer shots with these last two plays, but my first one is going to be Andrea Pavon at 80 to 1.
That's a big
You
number for
mentioned
him.
him. Yeah, you mentioned him, 2019 winner here, so he's had some success. He hasn't missed a cut in one, two, three, four, five. Sorry, bad for this, but 5 starts in a row he's made the cut. His last two, Italian Open T5, KLM Open T4. So 2 top 5 finishes in his last two, playing some awesome golf. The approach and the putting has been awesome for him. The driver tends to be a bit of an issue. So on this course, it's a little bit of a grain of salt, probably why the number is so high. But he's found success here before. He's won here before. 2 top 5 finishes, playing some awesome golf. I couldn't find myself to get off that number.
Yeah, that's a big number for a former winner here and a guy who has been around for a while. Looks like he's got 2 DP World Tour victories. He's a top 10 guy on the DP World Tour when it comes to grading regulations. I mean, if you're putting yourself, eighth best on tour in putting for a birdie or better, you're in a good spot. I mean, everything else really isn't ideal, but it's a slightly above average. So he's a rather well-rounded golfer. I like that shout a lot, and especially with that number that comes with it. I'm gonna head down there close to you. I'm going back to my Paul Warren at 75 to 1. Just a guy I've been on a lot recently. Kind of, I guess you could say, a bit of a statistical merchant at this point. But, fifth on tour in par 4 average scoring. He's sixth in bogey avoidance. He's 14th in scrambling and sand save, 17th birdie or better, 20th green regulations, 34th tee to green, 43rd putting, and 52nd driving accuracy. Checks every box I want. He's well above average in all of them. Isn't in the best of form, but if we look back to the Sudo Open not too long ago, he had a T10 there, T3 of the Volvo China Open, T6 the Guitar Masters this season. Just a guy with a big number who plays some rather well-rounded golfer who we've seen on a few leaderboards somewhat recently as well. So Paul Waring 75 to 1 is my third play this week.
Yeah, I like that. And back in 2013, a T10, 2010, a T11. So he's played well on this course before. Also, that Volvo China Open where he placed T3, he missed the cut the week before. So, it's classic DP World Tour. You can't put too much weight into things. So, um, you know, he's on the top of the leaderboards here. So I do like that call out. But before we got on this podcast, I called at least 4 friends and said, hey, any chance you got a free bet in any of your apps? And a few of them said yes. And I gave out this play to try to return a hopeful 300 to 1 winner here, Rafa Cabrera Bello. Just a bit of a solid golfer. I mean, 300 to 1 is a huge number. He missed the cut at the Italian Open, but made 5 cuts, in a row before that, highlighted by a seventh at the European Open and a T25 at the Scandinavian Mixed. A bit of a mixed bag here, but generally speaking, accurate off the tee, solid around the green game, and a solid putter. The approach play could be hit or miss, but what I like that I've seen is that he could spike with the irons, or he could be absolutely atrocious with the irons. Similar to some guys that we've mentioned on the PGA Tour before, we'll know pretty early on if he's clicking or if he's not. But also the icing on the cake here at a 300 to 1, player here is his course history. In 2019, he has a T3, 2015 a T11, and 2010 a T3 again. So he's played well at this course in some decent form, I would argue. 300 to 1 seems like a no-brainer to put a free bet on. So I'd suggest the same to all of you if you're still listening at this point to if you have a dollar free bet, you could turn $300 on him.
Yeah, I have to look into this because typically on the DP World Tour, if you're down at 300 to 1, you haven't heard of that golfer, right? If you're down that low, typically past 200 or 150, even a guy who's won on the PGA Tour many a times, a handful of times at least, a name that you can recognize. Again, he's on the older side, been around for a while. Of course, there's not much in terms of distance or anything like that when it comes to Bella here, but what he does well, a competent putter. He is 45th in strokes game average this season, so not too bad as well. But man, absolutely love that shot. He's accurate with the ball off the tee. 300 to 1's a big number, but again, the DP World Tour is one of those that could definitely give you a 300 to 1 winner nonetheless. Absolutely love that shot there, Jake. My final play this week, I'm going to the Canadian Aaron Cockrell, 110 to 1. Seems like a guy who can get the birdies when he needs to. Some decent form as well. T10 last week at the Italian Open. Love to see that. T22nd Sudo Open, T6 Bahrain Championship, T4 Hero Dubai Desert Classic. I know it's been a while since we've been in the desert, but still some good performances there this season. Currently 8th on tour in par fours, 10th in putting, 17th in sand saves, 22nd in birdie or better percentage. Can really pour him in. He's 24th in bogey avoidance, 31st green regulation, 60th tee to green, and 88th in scrambling. So not really a weak point to him this season. Just a guy who can get a lot of birdies in a hurry, puts them together. And again, a good putter, a good performance last week, top 10 Italian Open. 110 is a big number for a relevant name, in my opinion, that actually has some win equity.
Yeah, I like this call out a lot. Another name I now have to add to my list, so thank you for that. But great putter, and his approach play has been really awesome his last 2 weeks. So for him, it'll come down to the driver, which seems like a bit of a weird thing to say, but it's DP World Tour at long odds. So if he can get the driver clicking, Cockrell could for sure take this tournament down. So again, also at the beginning of the season, he was in some awesome form. I remember I was
Yeah.
betting him week after week. He was littering top 10, top 20, top 5 finishes, and he just kind of teetered off. So it looks like he might be getting some of that form back, and I really like that call out here.
I mean, the DP World Tour is so weird. I mean, Nacho Elvira won an event this year, just to put that in perspective. No shade to Nacho Elvira because I cashed 101 ticket on him, but it's just a wild place to be, and it's so fun. It's so fun. So if you give me another Sunday morning like I felt when I had Nacho on the betting card, I'll definitely take
Yeah,
that from Aaron.
for sure.
All right, Jake. Anything else about this event? Any other names in that before we hop off here?
Nope, think we covered everything.
Well, there we go. Thank you guys for tuning in. Next week, we head to the Scottish Genesis Open. I'm going to blabber a second while I load the PGA Tour schedule and figure out the name of the new tournament. Not the new tournament, just the rebranding, I think. Where are we next week? The ISCO Championship. That's not new. I lied. The Keen Trace Golf Club. Is that new?
Yeah, I've
That's
never heard of that, so I'm gonna go
isn't
with
the
this
Keen
now.
Trace Golf
Isn't it
Club?
usually the 3M?
I think it is the 3M. I think, but is it normally the Keen? Where
It's a
is this
great
place at?
question.
What is going on here? It's in Kentucky. Is that correct? I mean, I don't even know anymore. Don't tell me they got rid of the
Let's
Barracuda
go.
Championship.
Keen.
They
This is
did.
great podcasting. Oh, they
Yeah.
did. They got rid of the Barracuda? What?
Oh no, because the 3M's the same week as the Open now. So yeah, the Barracuda was
Oh,
the same week as the Open because out last year
or one
I had the
out.
Brian Harmon 120 to 1, then I had like Akshay like 40 to 1 at the Barracuda in
Yep.
the same day. That was the peak of my betting career. I'd love to relive that again.
Let's do it this
Uh
week. Let's relive it.
let's do it. Let's do it. Let's go 2 for 2. It's been a very long time since I've done that. probably last fall at Colin Morikawa at the Zozo or yeah, right?
Yep. He
And
won
then
the Zozo last year.
yeah, I think it was the same week as Nikolai Hogarth took on the DP World Tour Championship.
Mm.
So that
Yep.
was a fun one. It's been a while. But as if they're listening to this point of the podcast and we're just talking blindly as we scroll through schedules on the computer and the phones, I appreciate it. But Jake, let the people know where they find you on social media.
Yep, you can find me at DJ Freeman on Twitter. You could find my article on my Twitter as well. I posted already, and also I'll be posting my outright betting cards, my matchup plays. If you don't have a Twitter, you should join our Discord because that's also where you could find all this information that Nate and I produce week in and week out. 200 plus members, completely free to join, a great community that we've built there. So be sure to join. You can find the link to join that in my article and also in the description of the podcast.
I want to give a quick shout out. I don't know their name personally, but we've had a few people reach out to us and tell us they're fans of the podcast. They listen to our podcast and then construct lineups or place betting cards respective to what we're talking about. I wanted to give a huge shout out to those guys because if it's kind of even if it's just one person who's a loyal fan that just listens to our podcast each and every week, that's just kind of mind blowing to me that
Yep.
Jake and I were I'm sitting in my pickup truck here and Jake's sitting in his apartment and just blabber about golf that people want to take the time out of their day and their week to listen to us blabber about golf. But we do appreciate for the bottom of our heart, guys. Of course, you can follow myself, Nate, on Twitter at WKF Nate. Be sure to follow We Know Fantasy on all forms of social media at We Know Fantasy. Until next time, guys, we'll see ya. Oh no. All right. Hold on.